ट्रैवल फार एनफ टू मीट योरसेल्फ। जिंदगी में कहीं इतना दूर सफर करें कि आप खुद से मिल जाएं। कुछ लोगों के लिए ट्रैवल इज लाइफ एंड वाइल ऑन इट दे मीट देमसेल्व्स इन द मोस्ट अनएक्सपेक्टेड वे। और आज की हमारी स्पीकर भी कुछ ऐसे ही सी ही कहानी है। वेलकम बैक टू येट अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ द अनुभव सपरा शो, a show where you bond over food, art, travel, culture, and stories. Today we have on our show a roving herd. Roving मतलब घुमंतू, जिसे दुनिया देखने का जुनून हो. So please welcome Raksha Rao, travel blogger, YouTuber, and an avid traveler.
Thank you, Anubhav. Thanks for inviting me here.
So Raksha, we'll start with your journey about travel
Okay.
blogging. I came to know about you through a podcast. I think it was Musafir Stories.
Okay.
So where
Okay,
you
yeah.
very nicely you narrated your travel stories, and from there I started following you on Instagram, and then I thought like we should also invite you on our show and to know more in detail about your whole journey. So can we start from there?
Sure. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that that you found me from Musafir Stories. So about my travel journey, I think my penchant for traveling started when in 2015. I was traveling with a family before that, but I think something changed when I went on my first Himalayan trek, and that made me realize how soul satisfying travel can be, how enriching, life enriching travel can be. So that's where I realized, okay, this is something very life changing, and I want to do something in this field. And that's where the idea formed in my head, and then it materialized into travel blogging. So it took about a year to actually materialize, but that's something I thought I should be doing and something that interests me. So it's been a fantastic journey so far, and it's been like 4 years, more than 4 years now. And I've learned so many things which I have no idea about. So actually, I have a background as a computer engineer. So coming from that field into like a creative field is a big leap in itself, and it's quite different, right? Contrasting in a way. So I feel like I've learned a lot of things. Being a travel blogger along the way, there's so many things, and it's a lot of people think it's just about writing, but writing is just one of the aspects. So there's so many like having good pictures, and then SEO, and then you need to market it. So this, it's just it can be overwhelming, but it's also quite a learning experience. So that's what I would like to say about travel blogging.
So I asked this question to everyone who is a content creator. Uh, like slowly, you can see the medium of you can say blogging is evolving. It has evolved over the years. You can say it started with blogs, then you have social media like Instagram, then Twitter, then you have YouTube. Then nowadays it has evolved to like you have TV shows as well, like you have OTT platforms. So, which one is your favorite? Which one you like the most?
Well, so it depends. So I think for short form content, I like Instagram. I think it's there's so much creative. You can be there's a space for creativity there. So I love Instagram, and I like writing. So when I like to write like long form content, I prefer blog. So, and I'm actually exploring Clubhouse now, and it seems fun. So that's the new kid on the blog.
What's that, Clubhouse? I have no idea about it.
Okay, so it's actually a voice-based app. So, like, it's a social media where people come in, and only you communicate through voice. So there are groups where you can join. So suppose if it's food travel related, there's a group you can join, and there are people talking about their experiences, food experiences while traveling. So it's quite interesting. I ended up joining a lot of groups there regarding travel. So it's quite a new medium to explore.
Oh, so I have no idea about it. I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so now coming to your blog, in your blog you mentioned the more I traveled, the less prejudiced I became. That's quite a lesson in itself. So before travel took over, how do you define prejudice and how travel changed it?
Yeah, I think usually we associate people with a particular region, right? I mean, that's something we all do. Like suppose South Indians, for example, they're called madrasas, or they are actually they eat a lot of dosa, rice, which is true in some way, but that's not always the case as well. So when I was traveling, I realized that you can't really define people by these one word, or just a region, because there's so much going on, and everyone is different. And like for example, when I was traveling in Estonia, like I heard from a lot of people. I was traveling to Estonia, and I heard from a lot of people that Estonians are very, they keep to themselves, they're introverted, they don't talk to strangers. But then I ended up staying with the host in Estonia, and he was the most friendliest host that I've been with. So, and he introduced me to his friends. He was like larger than life personality, so he was quite contrasting to the stereotype of Estonians. So you end up meeting people like this, and you realize the stereotypes doesn't mean anything. It's there's more to life than that.
You have rightly said that. Like even for me, I have traveled majority of the states of India. Like traveling from North India, being in North India, then when you travel to South India, the way like you have these preconceived notions, and that
Yes,
completely breaks down when you start meeting local people, when you start interacting with them, you start sharing your stories with them and their stories with you. So it
correct.
completely changes. So travel is like a form of kind of self discovery, and then it changes you. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's true. So when we usually ask people about their adventures, but before moving to adventures, tell us one of your most memorable misadventure tour of yours.
Okay, I have many actually, but one thing that I would maybe talk about here is when I was actually staying in Flores Island in Azores. So it's part of Portugal. It's a group of islands which is not in the mainland Portugal region. So you need to take a flight to reach there. That's the only way to reach there. And I was there for like 2 weeks. I was volunteering there, and I was staying in a tent. So all was fine, and I was not sure if I'll be. First of all, I was not sure if I'll be okay staying in a tent for like 2 weeks. But somehow it was fine. Like I was able to manage. It was comfortable enough, and I was staying there all good for the first week. And then the second week it starts raining, and then there's storm, and it's windy. So and so I'm staying in a tent, so it's kind of exposed to the elements, right? So when I'm sleeping, I hear the pitter patter of the raindrops, and it's so windy that I feel like the tent might just fly off anytime. And I have my the suitcase with me. Luckily, it was a suitcase and not a backpack, because the rain drops were falling, and it already reached. There was moisture inside the tent, and it was already, the clothes were. My there was another volunteer, and he was staying in another tent, and his clothes all got wet because of that. So luckily it was a suitcase, and my clothes were not wet, and I was not able to sleep the whole night. This was it was like what to do now. And then it was actually completely open. It's open to the ocean, so you see the ocean when getting up. So there are good things about it, but there are also, these things, you are exposed to the elements. And then we went to the shelter, and right, it happened. So the tent blew away.
No.
Yeah, so it was crazy. And I knew that, okay, this is not going to happen. I can't do this for another day, right? So then we found another place where you can pitch the tent, and it had some protection, some shelter. So it was not directly exposed to the wind and the rain. So so yeah, so all these things happen. And these when this happened, I was like questioning, why did I have to like put myself through all this? Why did I have to really make myself so uncomfortable, and have such a difficult time? But these things are like part and parcel of travel, and when you actually go through these experiences, at the time it might seem daunting, but
Mhm.
now that I look back, it makes a good story. So
Yeah, yeah. So every time when you travel to a new place, and if you're on your own, sometimes it happens.
yeah, true.
But
Yeah,
it's sometimes also misadventure is also a kind of a memory, so which you carry
totally.
throughout your life.
Yes.
So, how many countries you have been to?
I have been to about 30 countries, 29
Oh,
to be exact. Yeah.
and I'm sure this question everyone would be asking you: how do you plan your travels, like traveling to other countries or within India also? So, how do you
Mhm.
plan your travels? Because if I see your Instagram, it's mostly like the pictures which are there of your adventure, and it's a kind of quite interesting. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, how do you plan it?
Well, I actually sometimes it depends on a lot of factors, right? Sometimes it's just that there are cheap flights and you want to travel, so that happens. Or sometimes it's like an elaborate plan. Like for example, when I went to Europe for 3 months, so I had to plan for the whole 3 months and also get the visa beforehand. So you need to plan before, right? And within India also it depends. Like if suppose I went to Northeast once with my friends, so I usually end up planning, but like part of it is planning and part of it is like you leave some space for something that goes wrong, or you want to do something impulsive, so things like that. So it's important, I think, that give that space even if you are planning, and not keep it like one after the other like places, so that you have more space to actually get lost and find meet some people and talk to people and share stories and stuff.
Okay, so on your blog, we spotted a tab called Travel Resources. And for me, it was very, very interesting. Like it's a kind of a travel assistant who someone who wants to travel, who wants to plan their trips. So it's a quite unique kind of resources which you have collated there. So tell us something about that.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, and glad that you found it. So, travel resources is like a place where I have all the different, companies and different resources in one place, so that I feel sometimes we are so bogged down with the details, right? Okay, I have to go to this place. Then, how do I book the flights? Where do I stay? How to manage money, or how to manage the budget? So, in order to kind of make it easier for people, I have this resource page where we share all the information about the ways you can actually save money, or ways you can stay in, like different options for staying. For example, it could be booking.com, or it could be make my trip if you're within India, or it could be like couchsurfing, where you get to stay for free with hosts in sort of a cultural exchange, or could be volunteering is where you actually help out the host in exchange for food and accommodation. So there are like so many ways to traveling, so I kind of give more information there to make people's lives easier, basically.
So, as you just mentioned, volunteering. So, this I remember long back. I used to work in a non-profit organization, and almost a decade back. So there we used to
Okay.
have volunteers from all over the world. They used to come and they used to use a word called volunteer plus travel. Like I don't know, this was kind of a where they used to be placed in our organization for a week. They used to work with the street children with whom I was working, and then
Okay.
after that they used to travel around the country for some time, and then they used to go back. So there's also something new concept which I
Yes.
think has been evolving in India. Like people, they
Yes.
go to different places in rural areas and then they volunteer there, they help the community, and from there I think the
Correct.
concept of sustainable travel and sustainable tourism is also coming up. So would you like to share something about that? I think that would be very interesting for the listeners as well, that how if someone is like, because of the COVID situation, I think everywhere all over especially like within India, people need help, and once the travel resumes, I think people will be willing to go out and help the rural areas, rebuild the communities. So how can they do that? Is anything would you like to share?
Sure, yeah. So volunteering with travel is still a new concept in India. A lot of Westerners, they have done this in the past, but people are still exploring in India, and it's still very new. And it's quite interesting, actually, for me at least. So I think volunteering kind of gives you, you kind of stay with the locals, right? So you get that kind of local experience which you wouldn't get otherwise. Even if you are maybe staying in an Airbnb, you would have a place for yourself, but it would still be separate from the local people there. So I think this is quite a unique way to approach travel. And if you're interested in like helping out a community, helping out people, local people, then do check it out. It's actually, there are a few websites I can suggest where you can try volunteering, like Workaway and Woof. Woof is for organic farms. It's like a group of it has organic farms all over the world, so it connects you with the people who have the farms. So it's quite interesting. So most of the time what happens is that for when you're volunteering, you help people in some way in exchange for food and accommodation. So it can vary, and also the timings might vary. So Workaway, what usually has is that like 5 hours a day, 5 days a week is what they usually have. So after that, you are free to explore around, or free to go around and see some places. So it depends, also depends on the host. So work wise, it can be a multitude of things. It could be like painting the house, or taking care of the farm, or taking care of the kids. And especially when you go to foreign countries, a lot of countries like maybe in South America or Europe, they don't speak English, right? So they want some English speakers to just practice English. So there are a lot of opportunities there as well. So there is plenty of opportunities like volunteering options available. So do check it out. And in India, the popular ones I think are there is one in Ladakh, there is one in Spiti, and I think in Pondicherry area also. So yeah, it's something to check.
Yeah, so if you have any resources, please do share with us. We'll be happy to add in the show notes so people can visit the website, they can know more about it. And if they are planning to travel post COVID, and if they want to do something for the community, they can club it together, travel and volunteering, and help rebuild the communities as well. So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, Raksha, next I have one more question. It's about when you travel. So, like say there are different interest areas for a traveler. Like say if I travel to any place within India or outside India, it's more focused on food. And like I go and explore the local street food or local dishes out there. So, is there any one focus area of yours? Like say when you travel, is there one particular interest? Like say many people have interest in adventure. I've seen, like I know you are into adventure, but anything specific? Then people are into rural tourism. People are into say ecotourism, and then you said farm tourism. There are many different classifications of tourism as such. Right. But so is there any focus area of yours, like when you travel, like?
I think it depends on the places. Sometimes it's the culture, sometimes it's the landscape, or it could be adventure. So, and have done volunteering. So sometimes it's just focused on volunteering. So I think it depends from place to place. I don't think I have a particular focus area. Yeah, sometimes it's scuba diving also. Okay. Yeah.
So next, you emphasized a lot on budget traveling. And now, because of COVID, in fact, everyone is struggling with the resources and all. Whenever the travel resumes, any tips which you would like to share with the viewers about budget traveling and how to plan budget travels?
Yeah, so when it comes to budget traveling, I think planning is also a bit essential, because you need to figure out where do you want to stay at. Basically there are three things, right? One is the transportation, like the flight that you take, or bus or train or whatever. And the second is the stay, where you're going to stay matters. And the third is the food. So you need to make sure all these three pillars, you kind of reduce the cost. So when it comes to flight, you can actually there are many sites that you can check. You can just go to Google, and you'll find many options of different flights. So you can check in like Skyscanner and see what the prices are. And the thing is, you can check for different locations. You can just do something like I'm not getting the word, but it's something like, okay, can I just check?
Yeah.
that I
And you check the prices incognito, like say in...
Yes, you check the prices in incognito. Yes, that's right. And also try in like off-season times or shoulder season times, because seasonal times the prices are very expensive. So if you're traveling off-season, the prices reduce a lot, and it helps with the flight prices are reduced, even the stay is reduced. So it kind of saves a lot of money as well, which you can use somewhere else while traveling.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is one thing. And also you can just there is an option in Google where you can just search based on the dates that you give. You can search where you have the less less budgeted flights or cheap flights, and based on that also you can make a decision. So there are many ways to actually one is find cheap flights, and also maybe even have like stopovers rather than going like a direct flight, right? So that reduces the cost, and not just check in the city that you are originating from. Suppose I'm in Bangalore, so instead of just Bangalore, maybe I can check in the surrounding regions as well. So right, so these kind of things. So like Bangalore, for example, so it sometimes gives you a cheaper flight. So if you so if you are okay with spending more time, it's always about time and money, right? So if you have more time, you can spend less. If you have less time, then you might have to spend more time, more money. So yeah, so that is one thing. And another is staying. When it comes to staying, it could be you can stay in hostels, which offer like much cheaper prices for backpackers. And the best part about hostels is that you get to connect with other travelers also. So you end up meeting people, and it's best for solo travelers, and you might even find a travel companion to go around and visit places. So yeah, that's another thing. And if you're going to places where it's an expensive place, right? So for Indians, there are a lot of other places which will be more expensive when it comes to change in currency. So in that case, can actually maybe cook at home sometimes, rather than going out and eating all the time. So when it comes to traveling within India, I think like especially going to rural areas, it's very cheap, right, compared to like urban areas, for example. And also doing like volunteer traveling, it really helps in saving out the cost, because most of the times if you're like exchanging if you're working in exchange for food and accommodation, you end up saving a lot of money. So yeah, those are a few things. And also couch surfing. Couchsurfing is also another way to explore, where you get to stay at a local's place in sort of a cultural exchange. So yeah.
But say what you mentioned, staying in a hostel or couch surfing, or but do you think because of COVID, people will be really skeptical about staying, or maybe traveling in groups, or staying in a hostel? So how do you see that? Like,
things are changing. There are like a whole different trend coming up now. People who probably would not have stayed in a 5-star hotel, they prefer to stay in a 5-star hotel now, because there's more safety precautions, there's more ways. I mean, they will make sure that they are taking care of the people, right? So a lot of people do prefer staying in these hotels like with big names, rather than going to small places. Now that's just how it is now, and I think it will take a while to actually settle down. And once it gets better, once there are vaccines and everything, more vaccines, so yeah, things might change, and there might be a whole big demand for even virtual tours. And I even see that coming up. You're doing also something similar, right? So virtual tours coming up of different places, different countries. So you're doing a virtual food tour. So yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So you think like the style of travel blogging will change in coming days?
Maybe, yeah. At least depending on how it goes, there might be a whole shift in things. So even, for example, I can't imagine myself going to a couchsurfing place now, and even hosts won't be okay with couchsurfing, because they are inviting people, strangers, to their house, right? and there's a lot of risk involved in that. So yeah, things are going to change. We just have to wait and see how it's going to go and what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. So we have talked about, I've asked this question when we started. You have been blogging, YouTubing, even Instagramming. Uh, which medium makes you feel most connected with your audience?
Well, it depends, I think. So what happens with blogging is that, right? You write an article, for example, applying for a visa to Europe, Schengen visa, and then somebody finds it maybe a year down the lane, and they would say, okay, this really helped them. So in long term wise, I think blogging really helps to connect with the audience. They are looking for some information, and if they find the right information that is helping them, right, so they will be very grateful to that. So in that way, blogging helps you connect and have like a good relationship with your readers. And Instagram is good for sharing like day to day life and day-to-day
Mm,
experiences and short form content and stuff. YouTube is something I have not explored enough. I feel I still have to,
mhm,
I feel I
mhm,
should be putting out more videos, so
mhm.
I want to do that, yeah, in this year.
And I got to know about you through a podcast.
uh, Podcast.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
another medium.
Podcasts
You
are amazing too,
Yes,
actually. Yeah,
yes. In fact,
yeah.
I was not into podcasts. I never thought of like I will be able to listen to someone for hours and hours. But it suddenly it's like in the morning time I was just walking. It just couple of months back, and I thought like let's check what exactly is podcast. Everywhere I've been listening about it. So I checked it, and then I think the first one I thought like I should shortlist the best ones out of my interest areas, food and travel. Then I went on to Musafir stories, and then there I found your story. I think you were narrating about Ollie.
uh, Ollie, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ollie,
yeah,
Uttarakhand.
yeah.
Yes,
So
skiing in
from
Ollie.
yeah, and then from there I kind of you can say find your Instagram handle, and then thought like I should also invite you on our show, and then talk about your travel experiences. So
Okay,
in
that's
fact,
good. I'm glad
yeah.
to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. So in fact, podcast is also a new mode of
Yeah.
connecting to your audience, sharing stories, especially during the lockdown time. And that's also a new medium. I have started enjoying it a lot. I have been
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
to food shows back to back, and I make it a point in the morning time when I go for a walk. I listen to one episode at a time. So it's a kind of a companion for you. You are just not doing anything exactly, but still you are with someone. So you're listening to
Yes.
the
Yes.
person, and that's also other mode of kind of connecting to the
Yes.
people.
Yes. Totally. I enjoy podcasts too. I think they're a great medium, and like you said, right, companion. There is a different connection when it comes to podcasts, right?
Mhm.
Because when you're passively walking or in the when you're traveling, for example, you just can listen to podcasts in your interest areas. So I think that's quite good. I love listening to podcasts too.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
So on your YouTube, you started something called Traveler's Quest.
Quest. Yes.
So what exactly is that? Uh,
So it's actually an online travel quiz, and the aim of creating that was to kind of educate, empower, and create awareness of the world around us
mm.
in a fun and interactive way. So I have actually been on this Kaun Bane Crorepati long
Oh
time back.
wow.
I did not win it, but I was one of the 10 contestants. So I think that's where my whole uh, thing with quizzes started. And but life took over and it kind of got paused in between, so I thought why not restart it during this time, because I was at home most of the time and I had plenty of time to research and do do things towards this. So I thought why not pick it up. So I started with Traveler's Quest on YouTube channel. So I was inviting three travelers into the quiz and asking questions, so then one person would win at the end, so something like that. And now I'm actually doing version of that where I'm inviting everyone, public, to the this thing, Traveler's Quest, and it's like a Zoom travel quiz that we are doing currently, and we are raising funds for coronavirus relief in India through that. So that's I think it's quite fun, and it's a nice way to interact with people, and just have like some fun healthy competitions of sorts. Yeah.
So when is the next one happening?
So the next one is happening this Saturday, which is 2 days from now, 29th, and there's another one on 5th June. So that's the last one. So yeah, so I think during this time, during lockdowns, I think it's like a fun way to talk to people and interact.
So is it based on any theme, or it's a general quiz?
Yeah, it is based on theme. So previously we had India travel quiz, and last week we had Europe. So this week we are going to have Central Asia, and most probably next week is going to be about South America. So yeah.
At the end of the episode, we'll be adding the link. We'll be sharing the link of your YouTube channel. People can watch it online.
Yes.
Yeah. So next is something which is, you can say, that's my area of interest. I call it slow fire. Like the way in shows you have rapid fire, I call it show fire. Slow fire, you can take your time and answer each questions in say detail. So I'll start with, like, you are from South Karnataka, and so many people, like, say, as you said, when you said, like, when we say, especially for North Indians, they have this image that South India matlab dosa, and that's what people eat, but they don't know there's so much of regional diversity within even South Indian states as well. Within just one state, you travel from, say, coastal area to the plains, and then from north to south the food changes. So yeah, so it would be great to know more in detail about the cuisine of North Karnataka and South Karnataka. And then I'll ask you, because you are married into North Karnataka, so what's your favorite dish in both the regions? And yeah, so let's start with that.
All right. So Karnataka, the food of Karnataka, I would say, is diverse. So it's actually differs from region to region. And I come from coastal Karnataka, so which is near Mangalore. And the food there is completely different from what is North Karnataka. So maybe I'll talk about coastal Karnataka first, and then go to North Karnataka. So coastal Karnataka, right? So there is a lot of coconut that we use on a daily basis. So it's used in a lot of things, like when we do something called rasayana, which is actually mango and coconut milk. You put coconut milk in it, so things like that. And also we do like some sort of bale with the coconut oil, and and okay, hold on. Sorry, I need to check.
Yeah, please. I have been to Mangalore in 2018. Yeah.
Okay.
So I traveled from Bangalore, then I went on to Mysore, Mangalore, 2-3 places I visited, and
nice.
I made many videos. So Mangalore, the food is amazing. I don't. I have to check it out, because 3 years back there's this place where I went. It was a kind of a hut. I don't know what the name of the place, but there, when you go, it's completely packed, and the way they serve the food so fast, and the varieties of fish which you get so fresh. So a lot of things I tried there. Suka.
Suka. So there is this chicken ghee roast that is very popular.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, and there is this bangude puli munchi or something that's called, which is actually mackerels. So it's mackerel fish. So yeah, but I'm actually a vegetarian, so at home, so it's what I'm talking about is all vegetarian food, and that's again a common misconception about people coming from Mangalore, right? So if I say someone that I'm from Mangalore, they always ask me about seafood. You would be eating seafood, or you'd be eating non-vegetarian food, but I'm not. So there is plenty of vegetarian dishes as well. in this region.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to coconut, so there is like
You're talking
something
about
called
rasana.
rasayana.
Rasayana.
Yeah, rasayana. So which is like basically we do it with either banana or like mango, and mango, like the pulp of the mango, and kind of get the coconut milk and grate the coconut and then put it in a mixer, extract the milk out of it, and make this thing mango rasayana, for
And
example.
do you eat it with something or just it's a drink?
uh, so it can be eaten separately, or sometimes we eat it with like chapati also.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
something very similar to like you have amras, people eat it with puris sometime. It sounds similar to that, like amras and puri. Mostly in
Okay.
Gujarat, Maharashtra, they do eat.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, could
but
be, yeah.
here it's coconut and mango pulp.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. And also like chips and all, we mostly fry it with coconut oil. So which is similar to Kerala actually, because Kerala, it's very close, right? Mangalore is very close to Kerala. So like, for example, this region called, okay, sorry, Kasargod. So there is, yeah, Kasargod, which is very close to Mangalore. So there's a lot of similarities in that sense also. And so in my house especially, so we have this well, and we get water from the well. So that's like a common thing in that region because there's plenty of water. So so yeah, that's again one thing. And uh, another is dosa. So there's like plenty of varieties of dosa that we do. Like neer dosa is the most popular, and there is cucumber dosa also we do, which is kind of sweet. And there's something called kadubu, which is similar to idli, but it's usually done in banyan trees, leaves of banyan trees. So it's kind of like we create a cup sort of with the banyan tree leaves, and then put the batter inside. So it's then steamed, and it has the flavor. It has a bit of a flavor of that banyan tree. So it's something that we do in this region, and we do something similar with brown rice as well. Brown rice is like widely used. We do like ganji, which is basically starch, a lot of starch, right, along with the rice, and we eat it in the morning sometimes, and even we eat it with like ghee and salt and the pickles. And it's also common during, if you're sick or something, if you have fever or something. So that's like a common dish that I end up eating at home. Yeah.
Kanji is also, I think, in Goa also. It's very like the fishermen, the fishing community. They, I think, also eat kanji. Kanji. That's what how you say
Ganji.
kanji.
Ganji, yeah,
Yeah, I
Ganji. So I
remember.
think there are quite similarities because it's coastal area, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I remember trying it in Goa with the fishermen community, kanji and mackerel fish, roasted mackerel. That's next to
Okay.
the sea. So so yeah, that's also, and in fact in many other states also they have similar versions of kanji. Especially, and I remember in my childhood also, whenever we used to have like some stomach related issues, we used to it's like very healthy. So yeah, we used
Correct.
to consume it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And so we do brown rice. We use that brown rice and do like something called pundi, which is similar to idli, but yeah, it's made of brown rice and it's not fermented. And we use a lot of jackfruit also. Like we have jackfruit dishes. We do something like kadubu that I talked about before, which is again steamed idli. So of jackfruit, so it's sweet. And you eat it with the ghee, and so that sometimes we eat that for breakfast as well. And there's jackfruit chips that we do. which is which is great. I love it. So and there is like we use the jackfruit seeds in sambars also, so which is really nice. And like I said, we use a lot of sar and sambar, rasam and sambars. So like a lot of variety. So our staple is kind of rice. So there's a lot of rice that grows in that region because it's coastal region. So we end up eating a lot of rice, and there is like different rasams, sar, that is what we call saru, and sambars. So variety of that. So there will be like one saru, then one sambar in a dish, in a meal, and then followed by curd rice at the end.
It feels like I haven't tried anything. I have to revisit, and I was more focused on. It seems like non-vegetarian food, so I missed all the vegetarian
Okay.
dishes which you mentioned. So I think I will have to
Okay.
revisit. So, and the dishes which you're talking about, are these all of South Karnataka, or is you get it in North, or is overlapping?
These are actually all of South Karnataka, the coastal region especially. Yeah, so we do also do something like patrode. We call it patrode. It's actually made of colocasia leaves.
Yeah, Arbi ka patta.
So, okay, yeah. So we kind of steam it again. So we have that for breakfast also sometimes for dinner. So that's I think the people do different versions of that in different regions. We call it patrode.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also do something of turmeric leaves, arsinele, and we do a sweet dish out of that. I don't know the name of it, but it's actually made. It's of arsinele, arshinele. So it's turmeric leaves basically. So that's a sweet dish that we do, and yeah, I think that pretty much it. I can remember right now about the coastal region, and of course there's chicken ghee roast and the gray mackerels, bangude it's called. So they are quite popular, which I've not had. But a lot of people go to Mangalore to eat these actually, non-vegetarians.
Yeah, Mangalore is a food heaven. The variety of dishes which you get, and now I can recall. I think the name of the restaurant, one eatery was Taj Mahal. Is it Taj Mahal?
Mangalore?
In Mangalore, Taj Mahal. I again
I'm
can't
not
recall.
sure.
Or Taj, something to do with that. So that's the place where I tried patrode, and then haldi leaves, which you are talking about, something dish made out of it as well.
Oh
So
yeah, okay,
yeah.
nice.
So they have a lot of different varieties of snacks in that restaurant. It's again a very old eatery, and the owner was so helpful because they have jars and jars. They have different dishes, and so he explained us each and every dish which we had. Maybe once this is over, I will share that link with you, so you can maybe check it out of Mangalore. So
Totally, yeah.
So now moving to the North Karnataka part.
Yeah, sure. So I married someone who's from North Karnataka. So I and I have actually lived in this region like Davangere for 5 years when I was doing high school. So the best part about what I like from here is jolad roti, which is actually jova roti, and they have a lot of not palyas, which is like which you have with jova roti. So like enegai, which is very popular. Enegai is made up of brinjals, and the staple here is like roti mostly. Roti or chapati, so they don't eat as much rice as coastal region does.
It's not roti, it's rote. Roti.
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 Roti, yeah.
I remember.
It's not roti, it's roti.
Yeah, I was in Bangalore on VV Puram Street, and there I went and with the host of mine. I said like I will have ragi roti. He said no, it's not roti, it's ragi rotte. I said oh, roti and roti. He said no, it's not roti, it's rotte. I said okay.
Yeah,
that's how you pronounce it.
Roti, yes. So jolad roti is very popular, and they use a lot of peanut based. So like coastal region, they use a lot of coconut in most of their dishes. So in this region, they use a lot of peanuts. So they have like peanuts powder, like it's called chutney pudi. So which is made of peanuts, which is really good. and Enegai also has peanuts in it. So they have a lot of these dishes with the peanuts, and they use onions a lot, and they also have something called huggi, which is sweet, like a paisa. So it is also popular. And they recently, I'm actually staying with my in-laws right now because I got married like a month ago, and
Yeah,
there was whole
congratulations.
lockdown. Thank you. So there was whole lockdown, so I couldn't move back to Bangalore. So we ended up staying here for about a month. Now we are here. So recently at home they did something of chili. So uh, there is this dish, bhaji, that we do of chili, that they do here of chili, and it's quite interesting. So there is this. Okay, hold on. I need to. So sorry, I keep forgetting things.
And if possible, I would really like to have the recipe of that payasam which you mentioned, udi. What was the name of
Huggy.
Huggy? Is
Huggy.
it the same
Yeah.
ingredients, rice, milk, and jaggery or sugar, or is something different?
Yeah, I think it's similar ingredients.
Similar.
Yes, I can find out. Yeah,
Yeah.
and let you know. And they eat
My
it with
favorite dish
ghee.
is ghee. Oh, okay. My favorite dish is sweet is kheer. So I love kheer in any
Okay.
form and with any grains.
Okay.
So I would love to have the recipe of that and try it at home.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So there is something called donne mensu, which is like popular in Davangere region. So which is basically of big chili that they fry as bhaji. So they do something similar here in Hubli, and it's actually they put some they cut this thing chili into like four, like half it, and like four pieces, and they put like salt and cumin crushed into it, and then they put it in a batter of bhaji, and then they fry it. So it's quite interesting, and the food here is usually salty, tangy, and sometimes even sweet. So yeah, and also there are different regions in Karnataka itself, which have different popular dishes. Like Mandya, there's ragi mudde that's very popular, and Davangere, there's benne dosa. So there's so much variety itself, even in a single state. So it's very hard to say that this is what the whole region eats, right? Because there's so much diversity there. Yeah.
So millets are widely eaten in Karnataka. You mentioned ragi, jwar.
Jowar, yes. Jowar is very popular in North Karnataka because it's grown here in this region. So they eat a lot of jowar, roti, and wheat, and less of rice.
Yeah, so you can see like how traditional food is now. The millets have become kind of a superfood. People have started consuming in majority of metro cities, but people have been it's been part of our diet for quite a long time. And whether it's Karnataka or Uttarakhand, in many states. Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah. So now, which is your favorite dish out of all of it you mentioned?
Okay. So of North Karnataka, I like this thing, uh, Ennegai and Jolad roti. It's Jowa roti. So, and South Karnataka, from my region, I like jackfruit, jackfruit kadubu, which is sweet, and you eat it with ghee, so it's really nice. And jackfruit chips, of course, and masala dosa. Yeah.
So where can
Masala
we?
dosa is not. Yeah.
Sorry, please
Go
go
ahead.
So
Masala dosa is sorry. Masala dosa is actually we make it at home, but it's actually very common in also like Bangalore, Mysore region as well. Yeah.
okay, so where can we try minus masala dosa, the dishes which you mentioned, the jackfruit dish and all? Is there any place, or if you want to recommend anyone like is coming to Karnataka, say North Karnataka or South Karnataka, a place where we can get all these dishes, or any street where we can go and try all of them, or you have to visit a local's house to try them? So,
So I think the best would be to visit a local's house,
okay.
and that would give you the most local experiences. And even there are places in cities which is of North Karnataka, like Kanavali, but I mean, still it's a bit different because
Mhm.
the food that you get, right, the ingredients that you make out of, that's also different, right? So there's still difference. So the best would be to actually eat in a local's house, or else you can go to this Kanavali for
Mhm.
North Karnataka. And there are a lot of Mangalore based this thing also, restaurants in Mangalore. But then again, it depends if you want to go for non-vegetarian food or vegetarian food, stuff like that.
Mhm. I'm
There
self
are
invited.
Mangalore stores that I've heard there are in different places, so maybe you can find something there as well.
I'm self-inviting myself. So anyone who wish to invite me to their house in Karnataka, please
You're
message
most
me.
welcome. You can come here and let me know.
Then once this COVID is over, I'm
Yes.
planning to do South. I'm planning to do South India. I'll visit Kerala and then Karnataka.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please do visit.
Then. So next question of slow fire round is serenity of mountains or calmness of water?
Okay. Well, that's a difficult question. And I think both of them have their own merits and have had some interesting experiences in the mountains and also when I was going to the beaches and especially scuba diving. So I think if I have to choose one, I like both, but if I have to choose one, it would be oceans because
Okay.
I love scuba diving. I think water is my element. So I love being in water. So if it's just swimming in the pool or in the ocean or going scuba diving, so I think I prefer that.
And the third one is backpacking trek trip or an all expense paid luxury trip.
Okay. Asking tough questions. I would go on a all expense paid trip, and
Uh-huh.
then since I will save money there, I can go again on another trip. So on my own.
So that's it for the slow fire round. I had three questions for it. So before we end, uh, one last uh, one last message which you wish to give to our listeners during these tough times.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's very hard to predict right now what's going to happen, and I know that these are difficult times. I just would like to say that stay safe and stay healthy and prioritize your health because we have now realized that when health takes a toll, nothing else matters.
Mm.
So please do prioritize your health and take care of yourself. And I wish you all the very best and healthy life ahead.
So thank you so much, Raksha. It was great talking to you and great to know about the food of South Karnataka, North Karnataka, about your travel journey, about travel blogging, everything. So in fact, please do share with us all the links which you mentioned, the volunteering organizations and any other resources. We would be happy to share it in our show notes.
Sure, I will definitely share it. And thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure talking to you and being part of your show.
Thank you.